रीमा जी 5 मिनट हो गए हैं, हम शुरू करें और उसके बाद जो लोग आते रहेंगे तो वो जुड़ते रहेंगे।
जी जी प्लीज।
जी। सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, माँ कश्चित् दुर्भाग् भवेत्। आज के मुश्किल हालात हैं और इन हालातों के मद्देनज़र मैं सर्वप्रथम सबकी सुख शांति एवं कल्याण की कामना करता हूँ। और जो प्रोफेसर M.M. पंत जी के साथ हमारी ये टेबल टॉक सीरीज है, उसके दूसरे सत्र में आप सभी संभ्रांत सज्जनों का मैं हार्दिक स्वागत करता हूँ, अभिनंदन करता हूँ। मैं समझता हूँ कि इसमें से बहुत सारे लोग हमारे पहले सत्र में भी जुड़े होंगे, लेकिन जो लोग उस उद्घाटन सत्र में सम्मिलित नहीं हो पाए थे, उनकी जानकारी के लिए मैं बताना चाहूँगा कि ये जो टेबल टॉक सीरीज हमने टेक्नो हब लैबोरेटरीज के तत्वावधान में शुरू की है, यह अप्रैल से जून तक हर दूसरे और चौथे शुक्रवार को इसी समय पर एक नए विषय पर प्रोफेसर M.M. पंत जी के साथ रूबरू होने के अवसर के साथ होगा। 1 घंटे 1.5 घंटे का एक कार्यक्रम रहता है। As we know, we have entered the third millennium of this 21st century, and we have entered this millennium on a very sad note, because since last year COVID has created havoc on mankind across the globe, all countries. There have been drastic changes around the world. Schools and businesses are facing challenges, and the virtual world has become more real than the real world actually. And we also are connecting through this virtual world. और ये जो पेंडेमिक है, इस पेंडेमिक के दौरान हमने ये देखा कि जो डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज हैं, they seem to be far more helpless in responding to the situation rather than some of the small and relatively less developed nations. मैं समझता हूँ कि उन्होंने अपने आप को तैयार ज़्यादा अच्छी तरह से किया होगा इस ऐसी सिचुएशन के को रिस्पॉन्ड करने के लिए। तो ऐसे में जो विकास की अवधारणाएं हैं उनमें बदलाव होगा, ऐसा हम मानते हैं। आने वाले समय में शायद इसकी नई व्याख्या दी जाए, नए पैरामीटर्स बने, नए बेंचमार्क्स बने, और इसीलिए जो आने वाला समय है उसमें करियर्स भी अलग होंगे। एक वर्ल्ड इकोनॉमिक फोरम की रिपोर्ट मैंने पढ़ी थी, उसमें लिखा था कि जो बच्चे आज 6ठी 7वीं में पढ़ते हैं, 65% of those children when they reach that level which they have not heard of. तो ऐसे में करियर्स 3 to 1 ये बहुत बड़ा इम्पोर्टेंट सब्जेक्ट बनता है, और हमारा सौभाग्य है कि आज प्रोफेसर M.M. पंत जी हमारे साथ हैं, जो आज इस ही विषय पर कि ये कौन सी स्किल्स हैं 321 जो थर्ड मिलेनियम है 21st सेंचुरी का, जिसमें हम ऑलरेडी आ चुके हैं, उसके मद्देनजर जो काम जो हम करते हैं, जो वर्क है, उसका फ्यूचर क्या होगा, किस तरह की स्किल चाहिए कि हम वो आने वाले उन करियर्स के लिए तैयार हो सके, उन स्किल्स को हम डेवलप कर सकें। पिछली बार उन्होंने बोला था कि लर्निंग इज अ कंटिन्यूअस प्रोसेस, अवेकन द लर्नर विदिन रादर देन द लर्नर। तो इसी नोट पे मैं आई invite Dr. M.M.Pant, who is the founder director of this wonderful Professor Pant again, and start the proceeding. Ma'am, over to you, please.
Thank you, Pralaji, and good evening. Our speaker obviously does not need any introduction. He is a man who dons many hats. He's an educationist, he's a technologist, and he's a global speaker on these topics. And of course, we at Laboratories are extremely grateful to him for him as he has taken up the role of a mentor and a guide for us. Techno Laboratories is a startup in Dehradun which is working on science, technology, education, and environment as a few areas. And Professor Pant very kindly disruption has happened everywhere. And this time go on, so the work has to go on and things have to go on in similar ways. We have to move on. Life continues to move, and that is what happens. And keeping this in mind, Professor Pant very kindly agreed to have these series of table talks. These are very thought-provoking talks because he's talking about the future of education. He's talking about futuristic technologies that we should, talk, take up, accept, move on with, because the times when they're going to change, like they rapidly changed for us from last March to this March, we are a different set of people. We have different thought processes. So many things for us have changed. Similarly, there might be more changes coming up which we are not sure about. And that is what Professor Pant is going to talk about. And the series, as Prahlad told us, of these 6 talks that we will have over 3 months, of education, how to move about, what to take up, how should we, as in the last one, Panji, he used various, he gave us examples from different philosophers, how they, in their own times, they used, how they talked about, and about different disciplines, how thinking and learning from different disciplines, it comes in different ways. And he used these to urge the educators, to urge the students, waking up that sleeping sense, literally sleeping, that spirit of inquiry which we have almost stopped using in our daily lives. I mean, we see in the third industrial revolution, in the times of education 3.0, as it was, uh, we had a wonderful education system. It prepared us. It actually catered to make a large force of humanware, a humanware which was so specialized for doing its work, and we had a wonderful global economic rise. But now the times have changed, and things have to change. We have to change, and to bring in that change. And this time, without taking much of his time, I would just like to invite Professor Pant to talk about the future of work, which is going to happen in the new time. Sir, please.
So thank you, Rima and the organizing team. You are now Techno Hub as an organization. As has been said within, but most people are not completely happy with knowledge for its own sake. They want eventually to relate it to some sense, economic conditions, work conditions, and so on. So today's session is on the future of work. When you say the future, it is an infinite thing. So I've circumscribed it by calling it careers 3-2-1. The reason I've said, because when people use the word future, how far into the future are we talking about? And it was very fashionable about 30, 40 years ago to talk of 21st century. When we were in the 1970s and 1980s, and therefore people would talk about skills in the 21st century, education in the 21st century, this in the 21st century, we are already gone. And that is why I use this thing 3-2-1 to indicate that we are talking something which is the third decade of the reliability, so to say. So if you ask me about the future, and especially when you look at, as was said by Vidyarthi, that if you look at till today, as somebody on Mars flying a helicopter there, or digging up something for water, or into some other planet digging for diamonds, and so on and so forth. So that's far, far away. By 3-2-1, I mean, what is it that we see happening in this coming decade? And normally, we were taught in school to write a narrative with the sense of introduction, body, conclusion, and so on. I don't think I will do that. I will begin with the conclusion and then try to get to the fundamentals. My traditional academic mind would have said, let's begin with the fundamental, what is the future of work, etc. They would rather do original work and publish paper rather than write review articles. So this is one of the basic problems, that the reward is given, how many papers you published. Did you get an award? Were you this thing? Were you in a conference speaker as the chairman of the session? And you said, no, I wrote a very nice article explaining this to people in simple terms. You will not get rewarded unless there is a new field for science communication, etc., etc. where it happens. So that is why, but it can be, and very quickly it can come in. And again, it's for you to take the points.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
So I hope this helps in some way.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And I think all teachers are scared of computers coming into classes.
Very good.
Maybe
Question. See, the point is you analyze what a teacher does. And when you try to talk of a teacher, giving information is the least important part. And it's the giving information which will go to a machine or whatever and so on and so forth. Just because the professor has written a textbook doesn't mean the professor is now replaced because everybody can read the book. Just because he's made a video doesn't mean it's replaced. So the real value which a professor began, let me elaborate this because lots of people have misconceptions. When technology became available from radio to television and everywhere, there was this always thing that teaching through radio, teaching through television. In fact, when television first came into India, we were very apologetic to see it as an entertainment thing. We said this is for learning. So we said we will teach the farmers Krishi Darshan and they will from television learn how farming is to be done. So this, but the important point is, and you are an experienced teacher, and if you've taught at IMT, you've known what kind of students are broadcasting. Broadcasting is where you give the message, and if somebody else has given the message, you are not relevant. Education is actually removing the cognitive conflicts that come in the mind of a learner when the person is undergoing through that learning. It happens in the brain. And we as educators remove those cognitive conflicts. And that is the role and will continue to be the role. In fact, more than teaching learning, medicine is going to have a major interesting thing. So there's a very nice book by Eric Topol, which says, you can Google it, it says, the patient will see you now. So the traditional model of a doctor is that you go, the doctor will agree to see you. It says the doctor will see you now and talk to you, take care of this thing, test data, etc., and then interpret. Now, in Eric Topol says in future, the patient will have all the data about himself, all the test reports, all the test information, and will go to the doctor, what do you make of this? This is what an educator does. A learner will say, I gathered this, I read this article, I read this fellow said, this fellow said. Now, how do I make sense of it? And this is what the role of the educator is. And that's why a good education is different from an ordinary education. I have no hesitation in saying this. I have had the good fortune to be with very good people, very good educators. At least I've personally interacted with half a dozen Nobel laureates and so on. That difference is very different from a teacher who's just giving out lectures in the end semester exam. So therefore, don't have to worry at all. Of course, if you were not a genuine educator, but a fake educator who was getting by making PPTs and reading them again or reading the notes of 20 years again and again, then you will be challenged. But if you are a genuine educator, where people want to come to see that their understanding is better, then of course there is absolutely no problem. So they will get, just like medical hospitals with a lot of technology are better than the original. Similarly, the educator with a lot of technology will be better than the traditional educator. So reassuring you, don't worry.
Yeah, so there is one Vinita Pant. She wants to add something. So could you please put on your video and bring in your perspective so that it becomes interactive.
May I?
Yes.
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, you are.
Yes. So I'm Vinita Pant here and from Trivandrum. And the very interesting point of when all this AI and all this technology, robotics, everything comes into play. What about the teacher's role? And there's that wonderful line that says that Guru Govind do khade kaake lago paye, Balihari Guru aapne je Govind diyo dikhai. It's not about giving any bookish knowledge.
Yes.
But the teachers never need to fear, because if a teacher is a source of inspiration, will only point towards the door, just open the doors. And if that is the role of a teacher never need to fear about technology gobbling up the role of a teacher, because technology can never be a teacher. They both start with T, but they can never be the role of a facilitator, educator, or teacher in that sense, the guru. Removing darkness, the light bulb has to be switched on by someone. And that is the role of a teacher. That's what I feel. Thank you very much. A very interesting conversation.
Yes. See, but again, the caveat here is, are you a genuine teacher or are you a make-believe teacher? See, because if you are only doing what the syllabus says, preparing for exam, etc., then you are not a real teacher. And therefore, so the point that is my take on this is that what technology will do is to show the distinction between genuine teachers and not so genuine teachers. So if teachers are only doing something, so we can put it in another way. If a teacher can be replaced by a computer, then the sooner it is done, the better. So teacher inherently has some things which cannot be replaced by a computer, which is very different from many of the other things. The bank teller has been replaced by an ATM because he wasn't adding any value. He was doing something straightforward which the machine could do. So if the teacher is also going to behave like a machine, then the machine will replace him. I will share with you very interesting. So Andrew Nug is, I don't know how you pronounce it, but it's NG, Andrew NG. So he's a very well-known AI specialist. He is a professor at Stanford University and also was for Baidu. I think that now he's for Google. So he combines both the practice of AI and the teaching of AI. And he says very nicely, this will interest all of you. So he says, whenever I go around, I look at, can this be replaced by AI? Can this be replaced by AI? And he says, you should Google Andrew Nug and see his photo. So he was talking once to a set of hairdressers, and he was talking what AI can do, etc. And then the lady who was in charge of this, she said, but the work of a hair designer cannot be done by a robot. The work of a hair specialist, design specialist cannot. And then they said, no, but yours can be done by a robot because it was very straightforward, katora cut kind of a thing. So this is the other thing he says, and this is important for all of you to appreciate. He says, if an expert can do something almost mechanically, it means in a minute, etc., like although a human is doing, is almost doing automatic set of steps, which he has learned because of his training. It have been 3 years, 5 years, but if the time it takes to do the task is a fraction of a minute or a very short time, then that will be replaced by automation. So X-ray radiographers, for example, have been replaced. Show them X-ray plates, they will be replaced. He said, if that human has to think for 5 minutes or more, then as of now, he cannot be replaced. So same thing, where teachers are almost doing mechanical kind of things and giving stimulus response in a Pavlovian way, the machine will do it, a chatbot will do it. But if they're doing thinking every time, and the learner is also engaged in thinking, then the machine cannot replace that. So I just wanted to give you that to understand that the teacher has to take his role to a slightly higher level. Create questioning mind, create observational thing, create thinking thing, different points of view, and so on. In that case, the teacher is always alive because there are multiple views on anything. So it's not a right answer, which you just have to remember that a computer can do. Very good. So we are having a nice discussion.
Yes, thanks for the insight, sir. So there'll be another round of questions, but now we are keen to go to point number 2. Sorry for
so my point was, I've given you the answer that these are the important things. How will you figure them out for yourself? You cannot always wait for somebody who is knowing and who is doing this thing on your behalf. So I am suggesting a few things. First is Moocs, massive open online courses. You know, there are Moocs now almost on all kinds of subjects. Some are free. Most are free. Only if you want the certification, you have to pay. But if you just want to learn, most Moocs are free, and there are search engines which will tell you. In fact, I mentioned Andrew Nug. He has a very good move on artificial intelligence. There are many others who have it, including Indian government has something called SWAYAM, which is a consortium of universities. So this is the kind of sources from where you can get information. But where do you get to know what is happening? Where are the frontiers of knowledge moving? And I have a very simple suggestion. Of course, those people who are academic, they are research institute, their libraries, journals, their community. This will tell them. But if you have nothing else, just look at the Nobel Prizes awarded every year. Now there are Nobel Prizes in physics and chemistry and medicine, biology and economics and literature and peace. So you got to know whatever things, and sometimes it is awarded to a single person, 2 or 3 people jointly. And the NobelPrize.org site has beautiful explanations about etc., etc. In fact, in some cases they used to even have games where the principles for which the Nobel Prize was given can be worked out. Except that they had made those things in Flash, and Flash is now no longer a popular technology. Therefore, you may not be able to see that, but that is. But people who want to know what's going on in maths, there is no Nobel Prize in maths, but there is something called the Field Medal. And Field Medal is not given every year, it is given every 4 years or something. And in fact, we have the last 2 Field Medals, I think, were given to Indians. One is Manjul Bhargava and so on. So there's also a maths medal which is given every year. It's called the Abel Medal, after a mathematician named as Abel. So this is where you get to see what new things are happening. Because everything you see today had won a Nobel Prize someday. Today we all take selfies. That LCD, CCD camera, CCD technology had got a Nobel Prize sometime back. Right from X-rays and so on and so forth. So the point is, this will give you an idea as to where the frontier of knowledge is coming. Even today, of course, now in the computer field, there's another set of things called the Turing Prizes. So things in machine learning, etc., were given Turing Prizes. So the other important thing is that Nobel Prizes and such awards are given for fundamental work. Are useful applications going to be made out of them? This is seen by the patent investment landscape. Sorry, the patent landscape. So whenever any of these companies take some of these ideas and make a technology out of it, they get patents in that thing. So as you know, on AI, earlier software patents were not allowed, but now software patents are also allowed. On all these quantum technologies, patents are being done. So you will be able to have an idea that this field is opening up because a lot of patents are being let in this, and this investments happening. So earlier the thing was that it was only government who would invest. So some field would happen or not, it will depend upon whether government. So in India, for example, government has started Atomic Energy Commission. So you knew there will be opportunities in atomic energy, there's the thing in Bark, and lots of people, young people went to atomic energy, then Space Commission, and so on and so forth, all statistical institutes. But today, it is not the government funding which is the major one. It is the venture capital and that funding. So follow where the venture capital is going. And if a lot of venture capital is consistently going in a certain area, then you know that area will have a fair amount of utility, etc. So the third point which is interesting is that what are the dispositions for success? When we talked about this changing times, I said this thing that talking of future of careers, future of work. So what are the kind of disposition that a person has? Subject matter knowledge is one thing. Now, I want to suggest 3 things over here. One of them is called computational thinking. Now, computational thinking was a term which was done by a professor from Carnegie Mellon University. She's now working with Microsoft. And basically what she kind of said was that not only computer programmers, but everybody else who's a problem solver of any kind must look at how a computer would solve that. So Janet Wing had written a, I think, 2, 3, 4-page paper on association of computing machinery, but it became very popular. And now many universities think of it as a compulsory course, which all its graduates must do. Elon Musk had a slightly different thing. And his take is that to be successful, you must work on first principle. He says first principles actually is a concept which was given by Aristotle long, long ago. And what Elon Musk says, don't believe what people are doing. Don't look at what the... And that is what he calls first principle. And he calls it a physics-like way of thinking. And as you know, Elon Musk has created completely new things. Always axiomatically believe that rockets are one-way vehicle. You send them, but Elon Musk has created rockets which are reusable rocket. He will bring it back to the place where it launched from, like an airplane comes back from where it departed, and has created the whole thing about SpaceX and so on. He did something completely new about batteries, the electric car, Tesla, and so on and so forth. So these are two other. The third one is a very interesting one, not talked about much, but is ingrained in our Constitution of India. India is the only country in which constitutionally it is said that everybody must develop a scientific temper, a spirit of inquiry and reform. This is Article 51AH of the Constitution of India. And why it is interesting? Because scientific approach is what gave us all this progress that we see in recent times. Earlier, there was belief, whatever, and so on, but scientists said, no, let me figure out. Einstein kind of beautifully put this together, not to quarrel with others. So he said that when I am doing science, I'm trying to understand the mind of God. So he doesn't want to fight with religion and God. He said, but I'm trying to understand the mind of God. What is God really thinking? And the mind of God is quantum mechanics or whatever. And so this also with you in terms of the approaches for development. And as was said by Adhikari ji, that the World Economic Forum from time to time gives us the list of top 10 skills. So for 2025, it has given a set of skills. 2010, it had given us 2020, it had given us a skills. 2015, there's some kind of a change keep on happening.
बोल दे जो अगले कहते हैं आपको ऐसा ही करना है, ऐसा ही करना है, और टीचर्स हों चाहे एजुकेशनिस्ट हों, आज हम पूरे वो गाइडलाइंस क्यूरिकुलम से बंध गए हैं, लेकिन इसको चैलेंज को चेंज कौन करेगा?
नहीं, चेंज क्या हो जाता है, मैं बता रहा हूँ आपको, चेंज अपने आप हो जाएगा। और मैं आपको कई सारी वो बता सकता हूँ, जब इस चीज की रिलेवेंस नहीं दिखेगी। आपको याद है एक जमाने में NIIT का कोई ऑफिशियल वो नहीं था, कोई ऑफिशियल नहीं था NIIT का, लेकिन NIIT का, और उसको देखा देखी एपटेक पैदा हो गया, कुछ और पैदा हो गया, कितने लोग हो गए, बिकॉज वो चीज की जरूरत थी, लोग उसकी वैल्यू, इसके खिलाफ वो अथॉरिटी ड्रिवन थिंग। मैं तो लोगों से भी कहता हूँ, मार्केट में आपके पास कोई सीखने आ रहा है तब इसके माने आपको सिखा रहा है, और थोड़े पैसे देके सीखने आ रहा है तब आपको जरूर अच्छी चीज सिखा रहा है। कई बार आपको याद है ये स्किल वालों में ये होता था कि वो फ्री में पढ़ाएंगे, फिर आपको कुछ 10,000 रुपया देंगे, ये देंगे। मैंने कहा अगर आपको 10,000 रुपया देके कोई स्किल सिखानी है तो स्किल काम की नहीं है। अगर काम की स्किल होती तो वो 20,000 आपको देता कि कोई आपको सिखाओ। तो इसलिए स्किल डेवलपमेंट वगैरह फ्लॉप हुआ, इसीलिए फ्लॉप हुआ क्योंकि instead of giving valuable skills, they were giving something which whatever reason they did and were giving money to attract people to come. But that is different. They will not learn the skill. They will take the money, come, but still not learn the skill. So it is very important that this has to be related for it to be sustainable, to be related to the needs. And because the Sara session, you have to keep upgrading, and more important, जो मैं अभी बात कर रहा हूँ, आपको उनको सेल्फ डायरेक्टेड लर्नर बना देना है कि अपने से कर सके। मतलब कई बार वही आप कई लोग पूछते हैं, उनसे पूछो जाके गूगल कर लो, तुम्हें मूक मिल रहा है, यूडेमी मिल रहा है, ये मिल रहा है, वो मिल रहा है, सब तो मिल रहे हैं। अच्छा इसकी कहाँ जरूरत है, क्या है, उसके लिए रिपोर्ट देख लो, हर जगह रिपोर्ट देता है व्हाट स्किल्स आर नीडेड, व्हाट इज दिस थिंग। आप और एम्प्लॉयर्स के यहाँ चले जाओ, वो आपको बता देगा इस काम के इतने पैसे मिल रहे हैं, इस काम के इतने पैसे मिल रहे हैं। तो जजमेंट लगाओ। ये जो आइडिया था कि कोई आपको बता देगा, ज्यादा कहना नहीं चाहिए, समय आपने देख लिया किसी को तो कुछ पता नहीं है क्या हो रहा है। तो
जो करंट सिनेरियो सर अभी पेंडेमिक का भी है, इसमें एक इम्पोर्टेंट ये भी है कि लर्निंग हमको जिंदगी,
इसीलिए तो सेल्फ लर्निंग इम्पोर्टेंट है। सी सेल्फ लर्निंग इसलिए सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट स्किल है कि आपको जो सीखने की जरूरत है वो आप सीख सकें। और मेरा एक और इस पर कोर्स बताता हूँ, एक गाई क्लैक्सटन करके है, उसने ये एक बड़ा अच्छा स्टूडेंट है, और स्टूडेंट व्हील चेयर में बैठ के आ रहा है, टीचर उसको पढ़ा रहा है, फिर चला जा रहा है, कहते स्टूडेंट अपने दिमाग से कोई भी चीज मुझे पता नहीं, अभी आपने सुना बोला ये सिलेबस में नहीं था। इसकी बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग कहानी है, मैंने पता नहीं इस ग्रुप में सुनाई कि नहीं। अच्छे खासे 12वीं पास बच्चे 95% and above, उनसे पूछा गया व्हाट इज द केमिकल फार्मूला ऑफ स्टीम, वो लोग नहीं बता सके, कहते तो सिलेबस में नहीं था। फिर उनसे पूछा वाटर का क्या होता है, ये तो होता है H2O, सबको पता है। उनसे स्टीम और वाटर में क्या फर्क है वो भी पता है, और केमिकल चेंज फिजिकल चेंज क्या है वो भी पता है, पर उसको टाई अप करके केमिकल फार्मूला ऑफ स्टीम नहीं बता सकते। ब्राइट बच्चे, क्योंकि जैसा आपने कहा उनको ये बना दिया गया था, जो आपको सिखाया है वो आपने सीख लिया, और जो नहीं सिखाया है वो हम नहीं सीखेंगे। तो
लास्ट में एक पॉइंट था, अभी मैंने कहीं पढ़ा, डेविड कॉलमैन के बारे में बताया कि इमोशनल लर्निंग भी एक आज की जरूरत है। आप फील करते हैं इमोशनल मैच्योरिटी, इमोशनल लर्निंग कितनी इंपॉर्टेंट है? अभी डॉक्टर तनेजा भी कह रहे थे कि अगर एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर्स के लिए ट्रेनिंग में क्या है, समवेयर आई फाउंड कि वहां पे इमोशनल लर्निंग की बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंस दी जा रही है कि
वो क्या है कि मैं आपको मेटाफर बताता हूँ अपना मशीन लर्निंग का। मशीन लर्निंग का सॉफ्टवेयर अच्छा वो होता है जिसको बहुत सारा डेटा देके ट्रेन किया गया। इसी तरीके से इंसान की इमोशनल रेजिलियंस ज्यादा होती है जब आप तरह तरह के लोगों के साथ मिले हो। हमारे एजुकेशन में क्या है, एक स्कूल में चले गए आप, उसके एक बैच में रहे, वो सब उसी उम्र के साथ आपके साथ बढ़े, आपको डाइवर्सिटी ऑफ एक्सपीरियंसेस नहीं मिलते इन टर्म्स ऑफ इमोशन। जब आप खुली जगह में रहते हैं जहाँ और लोगों से कांटेक्ट होता है, तो कुछ लोग आपसे बड़े होंगे, कुछ आपसे छोटे होंगे, कुछ आपको बुली करेंगे, आपको कुछ में बच्चे आपसे सपोर्ट मांग रहे होंगे, आप कुछ करेंगे। ये सब काट के हम उसको पूरे 12 साल तक अपने ही उम्र के, अपने ही सोशल स्टेटस के, अपने ही ठीक रख देते हैं, तो इसलिए उसकी इमोशनल रेजिलियंस नहीं होती है। पहले जैसा था, मुझे कोई संकोच नहीं है कहने में, बड़े बड़े परिवार होते थे, भाई बहन, कजन, बुआ फूफा, इनके बच्चे मिला के 15-16 बच्चों के बीच में आप पलते थे। आप जानते थे कि अलग अलग तरह के लोग हैं, कैसे करना है, वो बुआ थोड़ी ऐसी है, वो मौसी थोड़ी वैसी है वगैरह। सो आपकी इमोशनल वो डेवलप होती है। अभी क्या है, एक माँ बाप है, जो आप माँ को देंगे, गुस्सा होंगे तो थप्पड़ मार देंगे, पर इमोशनल डेवलपमेंट तो नहीं हो पाता है। इमोशनल डेवलपमेंट आपको पता है यार, ये है तो मेरा भाई है, थोड़ा सा ऐसा, पर मुझे डील तो इसी से करना है क्योंकि ये है मेरा बड़ा भाई। सो वो हो गया। तो अब क्या है, मेरा बड़ा हमेशा ये चीज थी, जो चीज एक तरह से नहीं हो रही है, यू गेट अनदर वे ऑफ डूइंग इट। सो आज की तारीख में इसका तरीका है रीडिंग बुक्स, रीडिंग बायोग्राफीज, रीडिंग अदर थिंग्स। सो व्हेन यू रीड द बायोग्राफीज ऑफ पीपल, यू विल गेट टू नो। गांधी जी का माय एक्सपेरिमेंट विद ट्रुथ, नेहरू जी का डिस्कवरी ऑफ इंडिया, और लोगों का भी है, वो है। सो आपको पता चलता है। तो बेसिक मेरा प्रिंसिपल क्या है, मशीन लर्निंग में ट्रेनिंग डेटा जितना अच्छा ज्यादा होगा उतना मॉडल अच्छा होगा। इसी तरीके से लाइफ में जितना आपका वाइड एक्सपीरियंस होगा उतना आप अच्छे होंगे रीडिंग। अगर आपको एक ही तरह की चीज पता है तो वो नहीं होगा। मैं कई बार कहता हूँ मैं अगर औरों से फर्क हूँ तो इसलिए हूँ कि मैं फिजिक्स वाला हूँ, फिजिक्स किया अच्छा किया, लेकिन मैंने लॉ भी करा है, मैं इंटरप्रेटर भी हूँ, मैंने कंप्यूटर भी करा हुआ है, तो इसलिए मेरे अंदर एक डाइवर्सिटी और रेंज आ जाती है। अगर मैं सिर्फ वही फिजिक्स करता रहता तो मैं भी बोर हो गया होता। फिर मेरे से कई सीनियर कहते यार मतलब कितनी फिजिक्स और पढ़े, इतनी तो पढ़ ली है। सो दिस इज द इशू एंड देयरफॉर इमोशनल थिंग्स कम इन. What happens is when it is lacking, people create special programs for this.
Thank you, sir. It is always pleasure to talk. Very nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So in this online world, I think children are exposed. Teachers are also exposed to the online world, and schools, I don't know what kind of infrastructure that they do have. So you spoke about cybersecurity. I would now like to call upon Mr. Ashok Kataria, who is a cybersecurity expert, to have his point of view, and if any questions that he has for you, sir.
Yeah, sure.
Kataria, sir.
I don't see he's around. Meanwhile, sir, there is somebody who's asking a question as to he wants to know the future of upcoming technologies in education. So,
very simple. We are going to see wearable devices come in. So wearable devices And wearable devices will help you convert text to speech, speech to text, do automatic machine translation, be able to do so many other things. So wearable devices is one very important aspect. I say this very often. Unfortunately, Rima is in the same category. I said, if you do not allow me to wear my specs, I am no good. You allow me to wear specs, I get an A and I come first in class. What was that? That was a wearable technology which transformed my learning. Tomorrow's wearable technology are all these things. Which will give me the meaning of any word I do. It will give me the equivalent. It will give me an example of something. If I'm stuck for something, it will help me. So the wearable technologies will be a very, very major thing. They are embedded in that are educational apps, but that is it. The other thing which I expect will happen very much is going to be the use of holographic technology. So remote things, we see somebody on a screen, but if we see it as a hologram, it will be a very different thing. People are already working on it. It's getting better and better, and therefore that can be another thing. And finally, the one is where there will be a chip that will enable you to do technologies which we see.
I think Uttal Pandey has written that machines can be, it will be some time which will be taken by a machine when they will we will start educating machines. Because we are still training them, we are still learning about them. Please ask your question or your point.
Yeah, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir. It was a very enlightening discussion. To clarify, the one key question that comes into mind, we're using a number of words like learning, education, and training.
Yes.
I personally feel there is a very sharp difference between them. And from my personal experience, having been educated here, I am an engineer by qualification. I would say only by qualification, because in the colleges, and I've also interacted at colleges, is training rather than education.
Mm-hmm.
So and you mentioned Mooc. I've been started with Andrew New's machine learning course in Coursera.
Okay, good.
That drove me to linear algebra by Gilbert Strang.
Gilbert Strang. I mean, you wanting to learn linear algebra, I could not believe that. I can understand AI, machine learning, etc. People see, but why would want to learn? Strang is very good, and his books are very good. So very good. So nice to know that. Aage continue.
But I feel that because unless we have a good foundation in mathematics, be able to reach only so far as because computing is essentially a special form of specialization in mathematics, AI, data science.
Yeah.
So, and with these Moocs, where I get stuck is collaboration, kind of discussions is what I miss.
Yes.
I try online forums, but the responses are not quick enough. And
you are absolutely right. Let me tell you are absolutely right. If you want a MOOC with good social interaction, then Future Learn is the place. So see what happened was, these things which are very successful, Coursera and etc., EDX, they are from the American system, which I call the lazy professors MOOCs. So there is no attempt in making you help understanding, but they just broadcast the lecture. It's for you to catch it. Whereas Future Learn has a very interesting, because it comes from the UK Open University, which understood open learning and self-learning, and therefore has social interactions very well embedded in it. What happens when you put the social interactions separately as a board where you go and interact, most people don't find it convenient or attractive. In fact, one of the things in which I had worked was Blackboard, Concordia University in US. So they were using Blackboard as an LMS. Now there was a kind of to coax people to do that. They would say that once a professor has made a post, every student must write a comment on that post. And that comment must be which shows some understanding of the subject. And then once these students have written their comments, you have to make comments on the students' comments. And this is how you get into social learning. Because inherently, we don't practice social learning in our normal, in a regular environment, you are supposed to keep your mouth shut and only listen to what the teacher says or ask a question and get a reply. But social learning is not. Future Learn is the only platform which is talking of social. So look it up, look up some course which you like there and experience that platform.
And
there's a question which is coming again. There's a question which is coming up. I'm sorry to interrupt. I think if we continue, this discussion is wonderful actually, and all the people are giving from their end, and the discussion is going on healthy. But I think let's first try and take one question each from a person, so that many people can give their ideas.
Also, I think we can defer some of the questions because I need to now sort of
exactly.
So last one or two questions, and then we can keep it in some sense.
Okay. So there is one question from Group Captain Ashutosh Pandey. Can you unmute yourself and please ask the question? They've asked for one question, so kindly unmute and ask the question.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. Am I audible to you?
Yes.
Sir, first of all, very congratulations on conducting such a nice lecture, and this kind of a seminar is giving a lot of thought process have been opened up. People sitting camped inside, holed inside their homes, and nothing more to do. But these kind of lectures will definitely open a different direction, what to think in future. And I believe with my question is basically towards interpretation. Actually, as you know, we are so many languages in the world. India itself has so many languages, dialects. So tell me, sir, what will be the future of language interpretation when people want to speak to each other? The AI will enable you take over certain places. We have Google translators, but there will be some form of human touch that will be required, because everything cannot be done AI or machine learning or robotics. We need to have. So what is the future of the interpretation language between the people when you want to talk to them?
Yeah. So firstly, you have already said that automatic machine translation. There may be certain things which cannot be done, but more importantly, language itself will evolve. So what is going to happen? Language was created as a very important coding system when we could not even record voices. And you had only the letters of the alphabet and minor variations. Tomorrow's language will be very rich. It will be a mix of multimedia. So I don't have to kind of recall. When we were in school, we were taught a lion roars, a horse neighs, a cat mews. Now you don't have, you just put in that sound from a sound file, just like you put in emojis. Now people, whole books have been written with emojis. Whole stories have been written with emojis. And we already have this new generation having the shortcut. So they don't write a full thing. There's a BRB, talk to you later. So what we will see in the future is going to be a mix of these things. And something which the computer can understand is more important than whether the human can understand or not. Because I will, just like in officialdom, you say, oh, you talk to my PA and make an appointment, you talk to my this thing and do it. You will say, okay, you talk to my intelligent agent. You will rarely be able to talk to the person himself. There will be an intelligent agent or something to which you would talk. And that person will respond, and only occasionally it will go to. So language itself is going to be very interesting and is going to evolve. You have not looked at the evolution of languages, but languages evolve and die. So many species are dead. So many languages are dead because of their use. English, for example. English was not respected in England, just like we don't respect Hindi in India. English was not respected in England. What was respected was Latin, Greek, French, and so on. All the terms in medicine are Greek or Latin terms. All the terms in law, Greek or Latin terms. All the terms in law are Latin. In fact, till recently, I don't know what it will put it on, but people of my age who did law in England were required to learn Latin as an essential part of it, because a lot of things came from Roman law and Latin words and so on. Tomorrow's thing will be something else, but I think it will evolve, and it will evolve to what computers find best.
Okay, thank you, sir. But only my contention was, in this process, will we see our own languages dying to a...
See, you should not get attached to anything of this time. What you see today has happened over millions of years in geological time scale, thousands of years in cultural time scale, and hundreds of years in modern technology. There is survive forever. So if you stop using a language, it will get out of, because languages are adopted on the basis of their utility. There is nothing intrinsic in a language, unlike biology, where there is a Darwinian law for survival by adoption. I have this famous story that I said, suppose in the Second World War, it is Germans who had won and not the British and Allies, then we would have been saying Guten Morgen, Guten Abend, Guten Nacht, because see, that would be the rule. And go back earlier, I don't know if you're in Punjab, they know Urdu and they don't know Hindi. And some of them know Persian and Pashto, because that was the language of the rulers of the Mughals.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your good feedback. And
Okay.
thank you, everyone.
Okay, right. Okay, all the best. So now the last question. I need to wrap up. So last question, and we'll take scheduled questions.
Okay. There is a question which has been asked, is that do you see reversal in usage or dependence on technology as student-teacher realize detrimental impact of many device data? And they're also saying that are too many variable technologies making us more like machines?
See, again, I begin with the same thing. Does wearing a specs make you more like a machine? Does wearing a watch make you more like a machine? So the point is, we shouldn't see this like a machine. As we should look at things with together, and we should make the best synergies in that. Sometimes, and in fact, you must have also noticed that sometimes to use a new technology, you have to do much more effort than you would do without it. So, for example, I'm not joking. I bought an internet-based ceiling fan. So it is, and so on. And after installing it, using it, as a what stupidity, why don't I simply switch on, off, and you'll be able to do that? So your technology is coming in the way of ease of use. Then we will say goodbye to technology and come back to ease of use. If the technology is enabling ease of use, better satisfaction, we will use the technology.
So there's just one last question from Dr. Munsti. Dr. Lohni.
Yes.
Pranam sir, and good evening to all of you. In this pandemic period, everything has gone. It's a new thing for all of us in teaching.
Yes. Right.
I fear that whether the online teaching help deeply or not. I want to know your views in this regard.
See, answer is, there is a very simple principle designed for that will get done. So thinking is an activity you design for. Online or reduces. Now, if you pose questions to people which require thinking and you ask them to respond, and then you react, discourage thinking. We don't want people to think. Only recently we have started saying, but until recently, in fact, it's a very famous story that Henry Ford in his factory said, leave your brains in the parking lot when you enter the factory. Once you enter the factory, listen to what your superior says. So the people, it has not been the purpose of education very often. In fact, if you recall Socrates, he encouraged people to think. And what did he get? He had to drink poison. So one day I was doing a course on critical thinking and somebody asked me that this is so good, why aren't more people doing? You can do that. And you can do that from childhood, from every early childhood. You can encourage thinking, and it can be done even in the books. I can give you several examples of books that I studied in school where they stimulate you to thinking. For example, my chemistry book. In chemistry, you have this thing, acid, bases, and salt, and you say that acids turn litmus into red and bases turn litmus into blue. So this book is explaining all this. And then it is saying the red is a blue and so on. So thinking is wherever you decide to create.
For your precious words. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, I have other commitments in the morning, and I have one session at 8 o'clock, and I have visited someone. So if we can close this session, we will pick up these things as a thread in the next one.
Yes, thank you so much, sir. I'll quickly invite Siddharth to propose a vote of thanks.
Yeah. So good evening, everyone. And first of all, I would like to thank all the participants, researchers, and educators who are from like different institutions and industries who have joined us for this wonderful table talk. And I would like to thank Professor M.M.Pant for delivering such a wonderful table talk. And it was really nice listening to what are the career options in the future and how AI and machine learning will play a role in it. Okay, so by this we come to the end of today's session, and a big thanks to all of you. And now we'll meet on May 14th for third table talk. So stay home and stay safe. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. God bless. All the best.
Thank you so much. All the best to everyone.
He encouraged people to think. And what did he get? He had to drink poison. So one day I was doing a course on critical thinking, and somebody asked me that this is so good. Why aren't more people doing